This video is for Morgan McNeece. Not just Morgan McNeece, obviously. Morgan is a friend of mine from Colorado, one of a great many people who were my friend in Colorado before Natalie was killed. Morgan typed something to me today that I'm incredibly used to. See, this is one of the reasons the police, when they do something wrong, they'll just lie to the media. The media will spout whatever bullshit the cops tell them, especially when it comes to a homeless person. And with all those people preventing me from being able to get in contact with all of the people that I know, when it made a difference, being cut off from being able to communicate with people on YouTube, on Facebook, being prevented from talking to the people that I needed to talk to, prevented from being able to get a hold of the people that could possibly actually help, that might actually go in with me in person. But that didn't happen, did it? No, it didn't. Instead, I was painted out to be some sort of a monster for trying to defend myself against monsters. Obviously not real monsters. Obviously, I'm not having to deal with Frankenstein or the Wolfman. Obviously, Swamp Thing isn't after me. It's just shitty people with shitty motivations. Superficial assholes. And people who want to make judgments based on their shitty ass assumptions and opinions. Now, he typed to me today. I'm going to read his messages and mine. I suppose I should go all the way back at the beginning of this morning. Prior to that, he's one of those people that right after Natalie was killed, he's one of the people that I tried to get help from. He's one of the ones that, before we knew Natalie was dead, that very first day when Natalie's mother was wanting to do her arguing, he's one of the people that was arguing with folks in the Facebook groups. He didn't know what was going on. He wanted to pump me for information so that he could argue with people in Facebook groups. I wasn't interested in arguing with people in Facebook groups. I was interested in Natalie Bollinger being found alive. Morgan McNeece, at some point, unfriended me. He didn't block me, though. Now, I get a lot of these, where people unfriended me or blocked me, and then later on, they're like, well, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Well, who did? I typed to him, remember when we were friends? But when I go through hell, you dip out, just like everyone else. He typed, where did I dip out to? Considering I've lived in the same place and ran the same business for the last 4 years. I typed, well, off of my friends list for one, and I haven't seen you in 6 years. I haven't seen you in 6 years at least. He typed, that's weird because I don't remember ever removing you or anything off of my list. So he doesn't know how it happened, apparently. Now, I haven't seen him in 6 years, over 6 years. Being cut off from my Facebook when it would have made a difference. Being cut off from all of my resources when it could have made a difference. That's the problem with Natalie spreading her rumors. I was cut off from the resources that were actually helpful to me. I was cut off from all of those over Natalie Bollinger lying. And I can prove that she's lying, but who's going to look at it? The courts won't look at it. I literally have to break the law because I have nobody actually in my corner. People like Morgan McNeece, who basically for the last 5 years, how much of a thought has he actually given my situation? How many times have I tried to get a hold of him to let him know what's going on, to hope that he's got time? He knows a lot of the other people from my stories, too. He knows Desiree. He knows Rabbit. He knows Mowgli. He knows Brian Townsend, a.k.a. Chaos. That's what Brian Townsend goes by. He also typed, "It hasn't been that long because my wife and I have been together for 6 years and I've seen you since then." No, I haven't seen him since he got married. I typed to him, "You were probably the 30th person to type that, which is weird because I had no reason to block any of them." Now, obviously, I type slow. When I type a message, I might be replying to something 3 or 4 messages ago from you because I type slow. He typed, "Yeah, I'm not too sure, bro. Either way, how have you been? What's going on with you these days? How's your brother?" A lot of people ask me about my brother. I typed, "Natalie Bollinger was shot in the head December 29th of 2017, and I hadn't been able to safely go to Boulder to see anyone for over a year before that. Last time I saw you was over a year before Natalie died. You lived in the double wide back then." He typed, "No, I've seen you since then downtown." I typed, "Eric hasn't talked to me in 5 years. That's my older brother." I typed, "Everyone stopped giving a shit when Natalie was shot. I've been in downtown Boulder only twice since Natalie was killed, and only 7 or 8 times the entire year before. 3 times to help OSHA, once to help Bailey, once to see Ryan, once to see Pierre, twice to see Chelsea. It's been longer than it seems." He typed, "So what's new with you?" I typed, 6 years of hell, sexism, assaults, racism, missing people, false charges, and murders. Oh, and theft and homelessness and a bunch more BS. It's been 6 years of hell, like I said. How's Grimbeard going?" That's his company, by the way. He typed, "Not too bad. It's been up and down like any other business, especially with COVID and shit. But I also work in live events, like at expensive hotels and shit for conferences and also concerts." I typed, very cool. "Better than the hell I'm leaving, and you get to see my loved ones, which is good, I suppose, although many of them are cowards." He typed, "What loved ones? I don't see anyone really these days, mostly all work and more work." I typed, "Look in the mirror, that's a start. I can't even go to Colorado without being assaulted or arrested all over Natalie and the laziness of my friends. It's nuts." See, that's the thing. My predators did not suffer from a lack of laziness. They definitely wanted to make sure that I was not able to communicate with people, that I was cut off from every bit of help that I could possibly get. That includes the Bollinger family as well as law enforcement. Of course, everybody that I know is too busy, too busy, too busy. Why does this shit continue to happen? Because people don't care. They're always too busy. I gotta depend on actual poor people. I also gotta depend on druggies. I gotta depend on alcoholics. I gotta deal with a whole bunch of people that I shouldn't have to deal with because you guys just assume. You assume that the government's gonna do this. The government assumes that my friends are going to do this or my family is going to do this. But all of these people, all of them agree that I cannot do this alone. When you're called mentally ill, you're not allowed. Now, I've posted up that stuff and quite a few things from medical journals. That one post that I keep putting up about the things you're not supposed to say to a victim, like you just need to get over it. I'm still going through the abuse. Oh, by the way, my shoe. This is my left shoe. I don't know if this is actually recording, so we'll check. Alright, it certainly is. Morgan typed, why not Colorado? There's other places that aren't Boulder. Warrants? I know there's places that aren't Boulder. I typed to him, well, I've been speaking out about that on YouTube and Facebook for 6 years. It's become a very long story. I'm aware that Boulder is not the only place on the planet. Of course, that's sarcasm for those of you who don't understand sarcasm. Or snarkiness. He typed, they proved it wasn't you that killed her, so now it shouldn't matter what people think. See, right there, it does matter what people think. There's a lot of things that happened that he didn't know about and didn't care about. I tried to get a hold of him, tried to reach him. I tried to reach a lot of people. They just assumed that because Natalie's killer was found, that it shouldn't matter what people think. I was being threatened, harassed, and assaulted for an entire year before Natalie was shot in the head. See, that's what people don't want to pay attention to. This shit started before Natalie was shot. None of this shit was over Natalie getting shot in the head. It was over me being abused because Natalie and her junkie friends lied. Because they were embarrassed. Now, people assuming that because her killer was caught, that was the end of it. No, the police committed a lot of felonies before Natalie was killed. The police committed a fucking shit ton more felonies after Natalie was killed. And all of this because people were too busy to do the right thing. They were too busy to speak up. They were too busy to find out what happened. They just want to assume that because her killer was found that it shouldn't matter. See, this is very dismissive, and it doesn't even occur to him how dismissive it is. Or how much it makes me feel like shit, because through all of that trying to connect with him, see, all of what I've read today is from today. From just today. And we're not even through it all. And of course, right after that, he types, if people think bad about you, then find new people. Holy shit, what a fucking dismissive goddamn piece of shit fucking mess. And obviously, he doesn't know a goddamn thing about what's been going on in the last 2 years, and I've been typing it all over my Facebook, all over my YouTube, trying to get help. Because people like him were too busy. He wasn't too busy to argue with people on Facebook, in those groups in the very beginning. He wasn't too busy for that. He wasn't too busy to pump me for information that he could use to argue with these people on Facebook. See, nobody bothered to do this the right way in court. They did it across the media, across social media. They harassed my telephone number repeatedly. Police went out of their way not to help me because of the term mentally ill, and I have been explaining to every single one of these people, every single one of them, I need help in person. If you don't go in with me, I will be victimized. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's the problem with Morgan. That's the problem with Monkey. That's the problem with dozens and dozens of other people who offered to help me and never fucking did. Dozens of people who claimed that they cared at the very beginning, but then, when I was cut off from communicating with them and had to do desperate shit because I had no actual help, I had to deal with nut jobs like Kara Johnson Miles and Kara Rogers and Layla Missy Johnson. I had to deal with a bunch of internet goddamn wingnuts because of assumptions. Oh, you assumed that everything should be fine because they found her killer. You assumed before she was dead that if I ignored the abuse, it would go away. That didn't fucking work, did it? No, it didn't. It absolutely didn't. If people think bad about you, then find new people. Holy shit! There was all sorts of people that did not think bad of me. But in order to go see those people, I have to deal with being fucking assaulted! I am a disabled American, folks. Disabled. I cannot take care of myself. I am not allowed to defend myself. Not allowed. Why did I reach out for help before Natalie was killed? Because I'm not allowed to defend myself. Because none of these services that you are paying taxes to, that are supposed to help people like me, that are supposed to prevent these things from happening to people like me, none of these places are going to do their job as long as nobody actually gives a shit. As long as you're making your choices based upon assumptions and not facts. Now right here, they proved it wasn't you that killed her, so now it shouldn't matter what people think. That is an assumption. It's an assumption based on complete and total ignorance. That ignorance is from not paying attention. So after he typed that, I typed to him, and that's the issue with people making assumptions instead of finding out. I typed to him, I'll make a video for you on my YouTube and post the link. And that's what I'm doing right now. I've moved over 40 times since Natalie was killed. I live in fucking shitty conditions. I have to trust people that are not trustworthy. I already know that none of you are trustworthy. That's the thing. People want to tell me I have to trust somebody. Lana tried telling me that. Lana gave me every reason not to trust her. And then she wanted to treat me like shit, telling me that I needed to trust somebody. And then she gave me even more reasons not to trust her. No, I don't trust people. People tell me that they care, but if they care, they don't even care enough to find out what's going on. They don't care enough to actually try to do something about the situation. They're too busy making excuses not to, or hiding behind other people. You did wrong, so you go lie to somebody else, and then you hide behind that somebody else, and magically, you didn't do anything wrong. When that person you're hiding behind assaults me, magically, you're not at fault, are you? Now, Morgan ain't hiding behind other people. Natalie did. Natalie's whole family did. These internet fucking wingnuts did. I've had to deal with rotten goddamn cops because they didn't want to do their jobs. Natalie would still be alive if law enforcement had done their jobs. Law enforcement did not do their jobs. Neither did Nicole Peralta. Neither did Nicole Jarrell. Neither did Jeff Ritter. Neither did Kara Heller. Out of all of the people that I had to go to before Natalie was killed, the only one who actually did her job was Tamara. And nobody has tried doing that since. They wanted to frame me for a crime that I didn't commit by trying to pretend I was some sort of violent predator. So I was assaulted by violent predators who pretended like I was the bad guy. My predators by name have been all over the news, and somehow magically they always forget about me in the news, don't they? They'll put me up there to slander the shit out of me. They'll go through and pick and pull little bits and pieces that they can use to try to pretend like I was some sort of a fucking horrible excuse for a human being who was stalking some little girl. But the fact is, first of all, Natalie Bollinger was a grown-ass adult. Second of all, I didn't stalk her. She stalked me, and so did her friends. And this is socially acceptable, especially when people are going to continue to turn a blind eye, not bother with finding out what's going on, not bother with looking at what's going on, and then tell me how to think and how to feel and what I should do and so on and so forth. They have no goddamn clue what's going on. There's a lot of things that were going on that Morgan mcneece can speak up about. Now, how much of it is he going to remember after 5 years? Meanwhile, for the last 5 years, this doesn't affect him. For the last 5 years of repeated abuse, because I can't go see my friends and loved ones to get the help that I need. I have to expend all of my resources to try to get help from a bunch of goddamn junkies. A lot of people that we both know, like Tabitha Michelle Cook. Morgan mcneece knows her. She's a part of my story. Is Morgan going to take the time to look at this evidence? You know, a lot of people that got involved in this back in 2019, 2020, 2021, they say, oh, Sean, you can't expect anybody to look at 3 years worth of evidence, 4 years worth of evidence, 5 years worth of evidence. You know what? It shouldn't be 5 years worth of evidence. It should have been taken care of in Chesapeake, Virginia. There would have been 1 month worth of evidence to show, maybe a month and a half. Hey, here's where Natalie was having her fucking mental breakdown. Here's where she was threatening to commit suicide if I wasn't already on the road. Here's all the things that I did to try to keep my word. Here's her suicide attempt. Here's her messages to me where she's claiming she thinks she's in love with me. But y'all don't want to see that, do you? A lot of people who are homeless tell me, oh, well, that's just homeless stuff, man. Everybody who's homeless got to deal with that. No. I was homeless for a lot of years and did not have to deal with that shit. A lot of years. There's a big difference between being victimized as a homeless person, which is fucking horrible, and being victimized the way that I have for the last 6 years. 6 years of, if I was a woman, most of these people would have helped me immediately. I would not have had to beg them for an entire fucking year. Now, obviously, that's not the same in every case, is it? Rebecca, she's going through some similar shit. She's a woman. She's also homeless. And don't get me wrong, I like Morgan, but I need his words. I need him to speak up about why in the last 5 years this is where we're at. I need him to speak up, to use his own words. Why is it that I've been trying to get help for the last 5 years, and this is the responses I'm getting? Why is it there are so many people who either blocked me or unfriended me, and then later claimed that they didn't? Why? And there's a lot of people that I blocked. There's a lot of people that are off of my Facebook for a reason. I need help. I don't need to be trolled. I don't need to be told what to do, especially when it's something that I've done repeatedly. If I got a rash on my backside and I wipe properly every single time, and you tell me that I need to learn how to wipe properly, well, we're going to have a disagreement there. Now, let's say it's not something like wiping your backside. Wiping your backside is a metaphor for a whole lot of other things, isn't it? Could be a metaphor for, hey, you need to call the Department of Health and Human Services, but I've already called them many, many, many times. The problem is, when you're called mentally ill, you cannot do these things yourself. You can't. You can't. You're not allowed. Someone needs to be there and present. And there has not been through any of this. Through every single bit of this, I have not had an advocate. I have not had a victims' rights advocate. I have had none of the things that I am legally entitled to as an American. This is completely different from being homeless. This is having every part of your life shattered. This is being prevented from seeing any of your friends or loved ones, any of your familiarity. None of these people, when they had to go through a loss of just one or two people in their lives, none of these people did so with grace. When these people were going through divorces, they didn't do so with grace. When their friends and family died, they didn't do so with grace. When their friends left them over stupid shit, they didn't handle it with grace. And I'm going through worse than all of them, and they expect me to handle it with grace. They expect me to be the Sean that I was before all this happened. Well, with all due respect, the Sean that I was before all this happened was a very nice guy. He was soft-spoken. He fought for our rights, and he helped people out. But that Sean didn't mean shit to these people. That Sean was victimized because people wanted to take that Sean's kindness for weakness. I had to do desperate things because people wanted to blow me off. People wanted to make assumptions and make decisions based on their assumptions instead of finding out what's going on, instead of taking a look. Now, it is not Morgan McNeece's fault that all of these internet wingnuts got on and did everything that they could to prevent me from showing evidence or speaking up when it made a difference. That's not Morgan's fault. But everything since then over his opinion that it shouldn't matter because they found her killer, that is entirely wrong. That's an assumption that is based on zero effort to look at what's going on. If you don't look, you don't know what's going on, and your advice is going to be shit, no matter how well-intentioned it is. So you may not intend on being an asshole, but at that point, that person is trying to tell you what's going on. You're too busy telling them what to do, what to think, what to feel, based on your assumptions. No, that doesn't make a person feel loved. That does not make a person feel as if you actually care about them. It makes them feel as if you care about your own voice, the sound of your own voice. I used to tell people that I was in love with the sound of my own voice. Now, obviously, that's not true. But what is it that most people's favorite thing to do is? Most people, their favorite thing to do is talk about them. If you go on a date, the number one rule for going on a date, if you're going on a date with a woman, from all of these dating sites and all of these different men's health awarenesses and all of these different things in Cosmopolitan, if you go on a date with a woman, don't tell her anything about yourself. If you go on a date with a woman, you need to listen to her talk about herself. If you listen to her talk about herself, she is far less likely to lose interest in the conversation. Now, why is that? She doesn't give a fuck about you, dude. We're all taught to be selfish. Now, no matter what, there's no right thing to do. I have a penis. If I try to do it the right way, I'm blown off. Natalie Bollinger and her friends harassed me, stalked me, threatened me, and assaulted me for over an entire year before she was killed. They did this as a group. Many people were involved in it. And what happened when I tried to get help? I was treated like shit. Until ultimately I was literally screaming at the top of my lungs for help. I'm sorry is dismissive. Telling someone that you're sorry, yeah, that's not good enough. Changed behaviors. You're sorry that you ignored me through all of this? Well, then change your behavior. Stop ignoring it. I don't expect any of these people to know everything about the situation. If I had an immediate family living in my household, it would be a lot different. But I don't have an immediate family. I am constantly moving from one place to another, to another, to another. My family don't do nothing but rip me off. My friends were my family, and they showed me that I'm not family. I'm not family to them. All of these people who were friends of mine who claimed that I was family, every single one of them showed me it was bullshit. Why do I not trust people? Because you're all a bunch of fucking liars. Now with Morgan, far as I know, he hasn't lied to me. I do need his help. He doesn't know the entire story, but he knows parts of it. And he could speak up about those parts. He could share my story. Share the fact that my rights have been violated so many times. A lot of people that were friends with me on my Facebook were friends with me in real life. And they shared stories of people they didn't even know. Other victims of my predators. But to this day, are they speaking up about what I've gone through? About what I have continually gone through? Are they? No, none of them. Not a single one is doing so. None of them. Way back at the very beginning, there was a few people that when they found Natalie Bollinger's killer, they posted up, oh, well, they found her killer, and that was it. That was it. That was the full extent. They didn't bother to find out the abuse that I was going through. And I tried to reach out to all of these people. Morgan McNeece, our messages, I mean, we're going through it. That stuff is all just from today, but I mean, we're going all the way back to 2020, 2000, all the way back to 2018. Here, 2018, he types the same shit. He typed, after that dude was caught, shouldn't that have completely exonerated you? That was on December 30th of 2018. I typed to him, long story, that's why I gave you my number. Now it goes up further past that. Oh shit, it's got the little thing going around in a circle telling me it's loading. So yeah, I'm obviously pissed off. I'm obviously frustrated. Obviously, I don't hate Morgan. With most of these people, I do hate what they did. I hate that the way that they treated me over their assumptions. If they were my friends, they would have tried to find out instead of just assuming. They'd ask me instead of telling me what to do and what to think and what to feel. or tell me what they heard. Well, fine, if that's what you heard, who did you hear it from? And speak up in court. Let's see how long this damn video is. 22 minutes and 39 seconds is my guess. Nope, 35 minutes and 16 seconds. When Natalie Bollinger disappeared, she was still alive when I made that missing persons post about her. I wonder how much Morgan McNeece knows about the situation with Tabitha Michelle Cook. I wonder how many of the eyewitness accounts that are recorded on my YouTube, I wonder how many he's taken a look at, bothered to take a look at. I did send him a few. And our messenger, I don't know if he saw them or not. Well, he definitely saw them. I don't know if he watched them or not. My predators got plenty of time, but my predators make the time. They made the time throughout all of this. While if somebody really cares about you, they will make the time. See, that was the biggest issue with many of the people who promised to help me, like Kayla Trujillo, aka Miss Peaches. Miss Peaches promised to help me before Natalie was killed. Months and months and months and months after her empty promises and her not keeping her word. You goddamn right I'm fucking pissed off. That entire time people were abusing me and Kayla Trujillo was doing the same thing as Morgan McNeece. If I don't look, it doesn't matter. If I don't look at the evidence, then Sean must be fine. If I go out of my way to ignore the situation, Sean must be fine. If I make empty promises, Sean will continue wasting his resources on me. Now, thank goodness Morgan didn't make any empty promises. Thank goodness he was not one of those people. One of those people who led me on for months and months and months that he was going to actually help me. Yeah, he didn't do that. Peaches did that. Mandy Hughes did that. Alyssa Rainwater did that. Most people did that. They didn't want to admit that they fucked up. That they treated me like shit for going to them for help. Or that they offered to help. People that I didn't fucking know from Adam. I didn't know Layla Missy Johnson. I didn't know Kara Johnson Miles. I didn't know Cara Rogers, aka Cara Mia. Now, why is it that I had to try to get help from those people? Because going to Morgan McNeece for help, or anyone else for help for that matter, I was going to get blown off in text messaging. A lot of people want to be pissed off because I record everything now. Well, guess what? A lot of motherfuckers who promised to help me took advantage of me, took all of my resources, and then treated me like shit over situations where they fucked up. They fucked up, and I had the consequences. Candace Bonderon fucked up, but I'm the one with the consequences. Natalie Bollinger fucked up, but I'm the one with the consequences. If these people cared about me, they wouldn't have spent the last 5 years looking away. They wouldn't have spent the last 5 years either making fucking excuses, empty promises, or, like I said, looking away. When Natalie Bollinger first disappeared, she was one of 2 people who were dead because I hadn't been heard. Now there's over 20 people who are dead because I wasn't heard, and that doesn't count the witnesses who are dead, or my loved ones who have been beaten to death since then. Morgan's heart might be in the right place, but I need him to use his brain. I needed all of these people to use their brains. And a lot of them did. A lot of these folks used their brains to try to alleviate their own sins, to try to make themselves feel better, or try to make it out so that the things that happened didn't really happen, or they didn't really happen the way that I said they happened, or so on and so forth. Because, why? Because they care about people's opinions. They care about other people's opinions. A lot of my predators, these people know that they're predators. They know that they're drug dealers. But at the same time, they still want their drugs. Their drug dealers are still local. Morgan McNeece does not know a whole lot about the situation. But he knows enough. He knows enough about his involvement. He knows that I did reach out to him for help. He knows that his assumptions, hopefully after watching this video, he'll realize how wrong his assumptions were. How hurtful it was for me for him to make those assumptions instead of finding out. He made his decisions based on his assumptions, not on facts. He assumed. An assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups. I need Morgan to speak out at least about what he knows. I need him to try to share my story. I need everybody to try to share my story the way that they did with Zaid Atkinson, the way they did with Sammy Leon Lawrence IV, the way they did with Gabby Petito, the way they did, well, not the way they did with Natalie Bollinger. I don't want people doing what was done to me. I don't want you guys doing that to other people. That's why right at the beginning I said don't break any crimes for me. If crimes have to be broken, I'll do it myself. If they have to be broken, I'll be the one to do it. Don't threaten to kill people. Don't threaten to go beating them. Don't go threatening to harm their kids. But then, what do I see from Kara Johnson Miles, and Carl Rogers, and a lot of other witnesses? They were all at each other's fucking throats. While my predators worked together, my supposed friends and help were at each other's throats. Like Alyssa Rainwater, I asked her to try to coordinate with Miss Peaches to help me. But instead, her and Miss Peaches end up calling each other bitches, cursing at each other, and blocking each other. With Carl Rogers, a.k.a. Caramia, her and Missy Layla Johnson didn't get along. Both of them had evidence that was very important, and both of them told me that if I was still friends with the other one, that they didn't want to be friends with me. Well, fuck you. It was never about being your fucking friend. It was about showing the truth. It was about collecting the evidence and getting it turned in. Instead, I got, and mind you, this situation with Carl Rogers didn't just happen with Layla Johnson Miles. That same situation happened with Aaron Cockerham. These women were threatening to kill each other and kill each other's kids, for Christ's sake. How is that going to help me? How is that helping me to get that evidence out there? There's conversations on here with all of the people that I'm pissed off at. Well, most of them anyway. And those conversations show why I'm pissed off at them. Because their portion of the story shows that I was telling the truth. Meanwhile, while I was being victimized because they were too much of a coward to tell the truth, thought that if they ignored it, it would eventually go away. No, 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 no. It went away from them, or so they thought. No, it doesn't go away for you. You did horrible shit, and I will speak out till the day I die. When I was on the streets, I noticed something about people. The ones who are going to try to get people to beat you up for being a cop caller, they're the first ones that are going to call the fucking cops. Me getting victimized over the situation with Natalie, being forced into the situations that I was forced into. And a lot of y'all want to make excuses like, oh, well, you could have moved somewhere else. I fucking did, dumbass. Oh, well, you could have tried to turn it into the police. I fucking did, dumbass. I fucking did. So let me tell you how much I hate Morgan McNeece. I don't. But I need his words. I need him to explain why, if he actually cared about me, why is it that in the last 6 years, well, he still doesn't know what the fuck is going on. See, according to Morgan, he's been busy. What the cops wrote down is entirely different. The cops got away with their slander because none of these people came forward on their own to the police, and the police didn't do any investigating, didn't bother calling a single one of these people. The cops had Morgan McNeece's number. I gave it to them. They had Kayla Trujillo's number. I gave it to them. She gave it to them. They had the numbers to all of the witnesses that they needed to call to verify that my story was true. And did they call any of these people? No, they didn't. I was denied my rights as a human being and continue to be denied my rights as a human being. I have to live on a quantity of money that you can't live on. I have to live in conditions that are inhumane. And I get told I wanted it, chose it, and deserve it. No, I didn't want, choose, or deserve your goddamn opinions. I didn't want, need, or deserve the abuse over your goddamn opinions. Morgan can see my loved ones. He's in Colorado. If he wants to go see my older brother, he can do that. No problem. If he wants to go see Mobley, well, he's just as screwed as I am because Mobley's dead. If he wants to see Christine, he's as screwed as I am because Christine is dead. If he wants to go see Mike, he's as screwed as I am because Mike's dead too. If he wants to see Onyx, he's in the same boat I am because Onyx is dead too. If he wants to see Janine, he's as screwed as I am because Janine's dead too. They're all dead, Morgan. They're all dead. The ones that aren't dead, I can't go to see because they're in Colorado. Because of the threats, harassment, assaults that I had to endure for over a year before Natalie was killed. And have had to deal with since. I had to do desperate things I would not have had to do if I'd have had someone there with me in person. someone to fight for my rights, someone to observe, someone to actually look at the fucking evidence instead of picking their fingernails in court. A lot of people say, oh, well, you can't expect somebody to look at 5 years of abuse. Well, with all due respect, that 5 years of abuse shows a pattern. My predators established a pattern of abuse before they abused me in those ways. Natalie Bollinger and Maddie Boa had already established that pattern. Alicia Bollinger had already established that pattern. Boulder Police Department had already established that pattern. Police nationwide had already established that pattern. Their protocol when you have to go in alone is different than their protocol when somebody is there with you. Someone needed to be there with me who was informed, who bothered to take a look at the evidence. Now, who is it through all of this that actually bothered to take a look at the evidence? Actually, take a look at the evidence with me. There's a grand total of one person. Her name is Mandy Singer, and that didn't happen until this year. Let's end this video and upload it to YouTube, and hopefully Morgan takes it to heart instead of assuming that it's a whole bunch of insults because he's not as pretty as I am. And just so you know, I think he's pretty. He's got a beard. He must be good looking.